podcast. No limit to what we do.
Janelle, celebrity vocal coach right here, and I am a part of Give It Life.
And ratchet,
And real extra ratchet, raunchy.
That'll be everywhere, like.
Who we got coming up? Other shops is upstairs, but we down here by our house, man. This nigga got hit to walk off the set. We leave that up to Vito.
Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation. Phoenix, soul, clarity and connection through conversation.
Hey. Yes. Thank you all, brothers and sisters. You're listening to Yaz Hurston, and you're listening to Phoenix Soul Podcast. Conversation and clarity through conversation. And we are on iAccess Radio, the future of radio and podcasts. There's no limit to what we do. And if you'd like to call us, please remember to call us at 347-708-0216. Again, I'm Yaz Hurston, and welcome to our February 6th show on Phoenix Soul. There's a lot of things happening in today's time. A lot of crazy things happening. I didn't see the Grammys last night. I heard it was good as a continued dedication to the 50th anniversary to hip hop. I did not see or did not know about that there was an earthquake today. Did you know there was an earthquake today?
I did. I saw the news. It's
I'll say who that is later, but sorry, just add you in. No, I just add you in. Okay. But I didn't realize there was an earthquake in Buffalo today, early this morning, and I'm sure hoping everybody's okay. So today, on today's show, we're going to really have an incredible guest. As you know, February marks a number of things, but it's Black History Month. And whereas we celebrate our history all the time, we also want to acknowledge, oh, hello, Zoe in Turkey. How are you doing? And you listening to us in Turkey? Wow, you're fired, Zoe. And while we are celebrating that, we also want to pay homage to people that really take the time to appreciate our history and appreciate the importance of history and understanding that one's history is everybody's history, right? So I want to share with you a couple of moments about a good friend of mine. He is a person I think we met years ago, like in the 90s, and he was working for Citibank.
Yeah, I was working for Citibank, definitely.
Yeah, and like on the corner of like 130 something street on 8th Ave, Frederick Doug.
Yes, community
and
center, yeah.
just sitting right there all the time, and like let me just hi everybody on here. And so like he was doing this work. All of a sudden, he stopped doing this work, and he became a person that was really much interested in doing tourism in Harlem. And he could explain to you why he did it, but I was just always so enamored by his effort and his courage, right, to stop doing this, I guess, guaranteed job, to do something a little bit more risky but important.
Risky and important, yes.
So that being said, I want to bring to you all the founder of the Harlem Heritage and Tourism and Culture Center, Mr. NEAL Shoemaker.
Yes, yes.
Hi, NEAL.
Hey, Yasmin, how are you? Always a pleasure to be with you. Definitely.
How's it going?
It is really going pretty good these days. Yasmin, we had a serious scare with the industry of cultural heritage tourism not long ago because, of course, COVID came along, and we were doing very well with tourism in New York City. As a matter of fact, Yasmin, we were slated to bring in 65 million tourists the year of 2020. We had just came off of a record year. And so we were all happy and pumped, and all of a sudden, COVID happened. And then everything shut down. And then we got word that it was going to take another 10 years for the industry of heritage tourism to recover. Yasmin, I think it was an understatement to say that I was a little nervous at the time. I was thinking maybe I have to go back to that bank job. I didn't know what was going to happen. But now, 2 years removed, Yasmin, they conducted a survey that second weekend of December of the previous year, and it showed that second weekend, December 2022, we were at 85% of 2019 numbers. Did you hear me, Yasmin? I said 85% of 2019 numbers.
Okay.
So with that being said, you ask me how am I doing? I tell you I'm doing pretty good.
You're doing pretty well.
I'm doing better now, yeah.
So let's kind of move back so we can kind of understand what that means for the listening audience who doesn't understand tourism and the importance of footprints, right? And so why don't we first start off with, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you from, what's your favorite color, all that stuff.
All that stuff, yeah, definitely. You got it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, me, Yasmin, as you know, born and raised in Harlem my entire life. My mom is one of those great migrants that came from Florida. My dad came from South Carolina. You know about the Great Migration, right? 6 million blacks coming from the southern parts of America, and they come into the northern parts of America, being pulled by the jobs that were here, and leaving the negative circumstances of the South. My mom and them came, so forth and so on. Okay, fine. I'm born and raised in Harlem my entire life. Mr. Harlem, that's me.
Mr. Harlem is you.
I love Harlem.
That's
okay, so as you said, working at the bank there.
Our listening audience says they need to hear you.
1 2 1 2. Can you hear me now, listening audience?
Just relax and
Just be me, right?
Yeah.
So audience out there, if you can imagine the years like 2000, 2001, and I'm working at Citibank, as Yasmin said, and I'm getting a little, I guess you could say, upset with working at the bank because so much is happening, mergers and acquisitions, and I'm not getting the promotions that I think I deserve. And one day I see a group of tourists on the corner of 116th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. Imagine this, guys. I'm standing there. My hat is to the back. I got on thick sneakers. I'm ready to go play basketball with my friends from the housing project. While I'm waiting for my friends to come and meet me, there's a group of tourists standing there on the corner of 116th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard. They're looking at the mosque, Masjid Malcolm Shabazz. I'm a big fan of that organization. And I'm thinking to myself, do they know the history of the mosque? So me, I approached them and I say, hey guys, do you understand the history of this area here? And they get nervous because of the way that I'm dressed, if you can imagine. And so at the same time I'm talking with them, a group of my friends come from the housing project. They walk up to me. Long story short, they see me talking to my friends. I think they get understanding the interpretation that I'm really from Harlem. I'm talking, I'm giving them information. And then my friends say, NEAL, let's go. We got to go to eat right now. You talk too much. So they pull me away to go eat. The tourists see them pulling me away. The tourists stop and they gather up in like a little huddle. So that kind of like stops us. And we're looking at them. They come out the huddle. They say, you guys from Harlem? We say, yes. They say, you're born in Harlem? We say, yes. They say, you're going to eat? We say, yes. They say, we want to go eat with you. Can you imagine that? 12 tourists from Turkey want to come and eat with me and my five friends from Harlem. My friends then pull me into a huddle. They say, NEAL, go tell them that we're going to eat at Sylvia's.
I was going to ask you, where did you go?
In all reality, at the time, there was a place called Louise's Open on 120-something street in Lenox Avenue. We were going there. But once the tourists said they're going to feed us, we said we're going to Sylvia's. Lo and behold, Yasmin, that's where they wanted to go. They wanted to go to Sylvia's, and I just told them what I knew about Harlem's history, from 116th to 127th Street. Once we sat down on Sylvia's, now we got the barbecue chicken, and we got the fried chicken, and we got the barbecue ribs, we got the macaroni and cheese, and the collard greens, and everything. And so we're eating deliciously. And then my friends say, Neil, let's go. I'm like, you know we don't eat and run like that. That's not Harlem way of doing things. They say, those folks don't know nothing about no eating and running, Neil. We got to go. I'm like, guys, listen. It was a great opportunity to meet you, but I got to go. They said, no, let us pay you for the tour.
Wow.
So they start reaching, and they got the, you know, the tourists, they got the secret compartments here, there, and so forth and so on. They pull a $10 bill a piece, Yasmin. At this time, my friends were in such a rush. They see the dough. They're like, Neil, you know we don't eat and run. Take it easy, man. They became meeters and greeters. We had a great time. I walked away with $120 in my pocket. I went over to the Morningside Park to play ball. I didn't have the best game that day because I'm thinking about, how can I do this again?
Wow.
And that turned into an idea that turned into a proposal that then turned into me becoming a member of New York City and Company. And I heard a woman speaking. Her name was Leslie Doggett, and she talked about the importance of heritage tourism. I immediately changed the name of my company to Harlem Heritage and Tour, Harlem Heritage Tours. And I guess they say that's the, you know, that's, what do they say? The rest is history.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, Harlem Heritage. So I guess you knew some information already just based upon where you grew up. You knew some anecdotal experiences that you could share. But I'm sure you had to do an amount of studying. Is that correct?
Well, Yasmin, like you, we born and raised in Harlem, right? And our parents are both involved in nature and community activism and so forth and so on. And so in being born and raised in Harlem and having the kind of family that I have, I've always known that I come from a great place. And I think everybody wants to feel like they belong to something great. Whether you're a Boy Scout or whether you're a member of some elite golf club or no matter what. And so from an early age, I knew I was a part of the fraternity of Harlem. And I never forget, Yasmin, I was like maybe, I don't know, like 11 years old. And my teacher said, Neil, if you keep messing up and not doing your homework, I'm going to call your mother. You know how she comes to school? She come with that belt. The thread was on, Yasmin. She said, if you didn't write a 2-page paper, double space, and bring it back to me in 2 days, I'm calling your mom. So I knew I had to get it done. I went over there to the library. I think it was the 115th Street and 7th Avenue Library. I got a book. And the book had 7 magical letters down the binder. HARLEM. I grabbed that book out. I started reading about Sammy Davis Jr. living in Harlem. I started reading about all these greats who lived in Harlem. And one story in the book said that Sammy lived at 46 West 131st Street. Well, that's my dad is from.
131?
46 West 131st Street. So I'm thinking the Candy Man lives in my building. The building had empty apartments upstairs. I'm thinking maybe the Candy Man left some candy behind. So I just started reading and I became like really into it.
Okay.
And then another incident happened when I was about 14. I joined the Dance Theater of Harlem. I had to walk from the Valley of Harlem and all up and through the hills of Harlem, up in the Sugar Hill and everything. I had to walk and get to the Dance Theater of Harlem. And I'm 14 years old and I saw all those beautiful brownstones and those wide streets. And I knew that this was a special place. And the seeds were planted there.
Sure.
Yeah.
So wait, did you just say that you joined the Dance Theater of Harlem? I didn't hear that part.
Yeah, that was by
Oh.
accident. That was
by
kind of
accident?
thing. Yeah, that was, you
Were
know.
you a dancer?
No, what happened, Yasmin, I was a breakdancer.
Okay.
And speaking of the 50th anniversary
So
of
flexibility
hip hop,
is important, yeah.
so I'm doing, you know, so it's Arthur Mitchell at the time, God bless his soul. He was conducting a dance demonstration at Aaron Davis Hall in Harlem. And all those kids went up there. And he said, everybody come on the stage and do whatever you want to do. I started breakdancing. He gave me a scholarship that summer to go to DTH. Now, that summer, Yasmin, I want to play basketball. But my mother found out. She said, no, you're not playing ball. You're going to the Dance Theater of Harlem this summer. She took me to Capizio's downtown. I forget this, like this dance store.
Capizio's.
I had to get tights and ballet shoes and everything. It wasn't my thing. I wanted to play ball, but I thank God for that opportunity because although I didn't stick through it, it showed me a side of Harlem that I had not seen. And thank God for the great Arthur Mitchell. I had a great summer that summer up there at DTH. And that took me out of the valley of Harlem, and it spreaded me throughout Harlem. And when I walked up there, all up there in the hills of Harlem, going all the way to DTH, I saw parts of Harlem that told me, man, I love this place. And that's where the seeds were planted for me to become the president of Harlem Heritage Tours.
So I think that's incredible. Okay, so it had to be some moments where you grew, right, and where you started from. I guess your moments where you first began and then you grew, and where did you start off with? Like what was your process? I don't think the audience knows a lot about how incredible tourism is and how it works,
man.
and how it connects throughout the city. And
I didn't know.
Right. So tell us about that process of you like learning this.
Oh man, I had no
industry.
clue about the industry of cultural heritage tourism.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that it's one of the major generators for communities across the world. Host communities with a high concentration of tourism, or should I say high concentration of culture in their backyards. You know, studies have shown that when people travel, especially in New York City, the last study showed that, I don't know, like the last studies that I really looked at showed those 63 million people who came to New York City. Don't you know half of them express an interest in heritage tourism and hearing about the stories of a given community from the people who live there? That's what people want, especially now they want those really in-depth experiences that are hosted by the host of a community where they can really eat the food of the native people. They want to go to the churches. They want to see what's like life is like for them. And so this is a special opportunity that communities like Harlem have to preserve their culture and contribute to the development of their local economies. Because what community in what community in New York City, or maybe even the country, that has as high a concentration of history as Harlem has? And what about the local person telling their own story? And what about that local person cooking food for that tourist that's coming in? And what about me hooking up with Yasmin, because I know Yasmin you can burn. I know you can. And you cook a meal for some peoples, and then they eat, and they eat your food, then we walk around Central Park over to 110th Street where, you know, I don't want to tell you, I'm going to tell you your business. I'm sorry about that. Sorry about that. And then we do a haul across 110th Street. The people love that, and that's important for our community, and it helps save our culture. It helps us grow our economies, and then I can talk about people who are unheralded. I can tell them a story about sorry, go ahead.
No. So I think apparently there's a difference between heritage tourism and tourism. Like what is heritage basically rooted in like the cultural area where you're from?
Right.
Okay.
Regular tourism versus cultural heritage tourism.
Okay.
Cultural heritage tourism is telling the story of your particular culture and your heritage coming from your indigenous standpoint as it pertains to you, telling your own story.
Right. So I have seen various audiences. I've seen you walk around with various audiences, whether they're from Turkey, like you said, or whether they're from South Carolina. And it just seems to be incredible that, do you find that people know the history? Have you shed some light on something where people go, I didn't really know about that?
It happens all of the time. Even for me, I'm learning of people I didn't know, events I didn't know happened. For instance, last Thursday, or let's say maybe 2 weeks ago to this day, I'm doing some research, and I'm reading, and I'm looking at videos, and I see that on January 26th of 1920, January 26th of 1934, the Apollo Theater had just reopened as a newly renovated theater, allowing blacks in for the first time. So we go to the Apollo Theater all the time, but did you know once upon a time we had no blacks going inside there? And that it wasn't until January the 26th of 34 that blacks were allowed to go inside the Apollo Theater?
No, I did not know that.
See, heritage tourism unearthed that information for me. I told my friends at the Apollo Theater about it. I told my friends at Harlem Festival of Culture about it. I told everybody about it. When we showed up that night, January the 26th of 2023, to celebrate Little Kim being there, we also talked about that night being an anniversary of black people being allowed to go in the building for the first time. That information would have not have been unearthed if not for the industry of cultural heritage tourism. Things like that. And how do you feel when you go inside the Apollo Theater on that given night to see Little Kim, and you know you're walking through the doors on the same night where in 1934 blacks were allowed to go in for the first time?
Understood.
It changes the whole experience,
Yeah,
right?
I'm sure it does.
So things like that come to light, and I have the opportunity on February the 12th, 13th, and 14th to take 150 kids on a tour of Harlem. These 150 kids, their school is inside of the old Harlem World. We're celebrating
one across,
50th,
right.
yeah, right across.
Right.
So you asked me, we're celebrating. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So where are you? Where are you located right now? Where's your office located right now?
Very interesting. I'm at 104 Malcolm X Boulevard, which is 115th, 116th Street and Malcolm X Boulevard.
Okay.
Right across the street is Masjid Malcolm Shabazz,
Right.
where from 1957 to 1963, 1964, Malcolm X himself was the leader of the building. My office is right across the street.
How do you feel about that?
I feel like
Wow.
the luckiest man in the world.
Is that right?
I really do, because I'm a big fan of Malcolm. I'm a big fan of my history. I see it on TV during Black History Month, but I look out the window of my office and I see it right across the street. And I look at the TV and look across the street, and I'm like, this is the same place. But my issue is that sometimes local people don't appreciate it the way that I do. Now, don't get me wrong, I got friends coming in from all over the world. My friends from France, they don't run up to the Eiffel Tower. Going to the Eiffel Tower, we love it. My friends from the UK, they don't run to the Thames River.
Yeah,
so
no, it's the same.
I don't
Yeah.
knock my folk for not appreciating the culture, because it's a human phenomenon not to do so. But for me, I love it because I'm walking the footsteps of Adam Clayton Powell Jr.,
Yes.
Malcolm X, Queen Mother Moore, Dr. King, James Baldwin, Cassius Clay, a.k.a. Muhammad Ali. Let me just tell you something, guys. I really get inspired by this. I'm serious. If I'm having a bad day and it's tough on me, I go to YouTube, I watch some videos about Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali, and I watched that video of him after beating Sonny Liston. He's taking on a walk into the Harlem. They go up there to the Jersey Hotel, cameras are flashing, bulbs are popping. The cameraman says, Cassius Clay, great job winning. He goes, my name is no longer Cassius Clay. My name is Muhammad Ali. Muhammad Ali, that's my name. Muhammad stands for worthy of all praises, and Ali stands for most high. I watch something like that.
Right.
All these greats living in my neighborhood. You listen.
Right.
After that, you can't beat me now.
So what did
I got Mamba mentality now. You know what I mean?
Hilarious. That's hilarious.
I'm sorry.
So that's all right. Thank you, D.W. Williams, for your comments. She says thank you for loving the history. So tell us a little bit about what you offer, if you can. Like what type of tours do you offer?
Yeah.
To share that so people can understand the different experiences that you provide.
Well, I think, and I say this with humility, I'm one of the first people in the country that really looked at my community, and I said I'm going to develop thematic tours.
What kind of?
A theme tours.
Okay, thematic.
A theme may be civil rights. And in Harlem, along that 116th Street corridor, all throughout Harlem, I mean, you walk in the footsteps of all Y.T. Walker, Adam Clayton Powell Jr., Malcolm X, I can go on and on. So that's one theme.
Civil rights.
Civil rights. Another theme may be, I'm really happy about this one because Harlem Renaissance, man. I mean, this is the 100th anniversary of so many great Harlem Renaissance events. So we're going to walk in the footsteps of Langston and Zora and all these greats. Now, the thing is, when you walk with me, I have an iPad on my arm and a speaker on my back. So you're walking and I'm giving you narration, but then I'm playing speeches and music and showing video that gives you some understanding of you being right there where history happened. Right? I gotta bring it to life. I gotta make the history come alive.
Oh, so
if it don't come alive, it don't count.
So you playing speeches and music so people get a feel of right and the energy right where you are.
Right where you are. I take out a picture. I say, see this photograph right here? And I'll tell the folks that are with me, can you please find the building that's in the picture?
Oh, I see.
And they start looking around. And they'll go, that's the building right there. And I'm standing right here. You mean I'm standing right where such and such a person stood?
Sure.
Sure you are. And now listen to what they said from this spot right here.
So you have civil rights,
Spanish Harlem.
Renaissance, and what else?
Civil rights, Spanish Harlem.
Spanish Harlem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Spanish Harlem, nighttime jazz.
Okay.
And
Nighttime
then
jazz.
I'll work with a particular, like, say, civic organization or youth group, and I'll say, tell me your mission. What makes you who you are? I'll read that, and then I'll curate an experience, especially for them. Like, for instance, folks coming in from Florida where A. Philip Randolph is from. So now we got to do A. Philip Randolph's Harlem. As a matter of fact, everybody out there, I want everybody to follow me on Instagram. Harlem Heritage Tours on Instagram. And what we're going to do this month is you guys are going to join my book club, the Harlem Heritage Book Club. And we're going to read One Righteous Man about the life and times of Samuel Battle, who became a police officer, the first black police officer. 1911, he became the first black sergeant. He became the first black lieutenant. They called him Big Sam Battle.
Right.
He was feared by the criminals and by the bad guys.
Right.
But the kids and little girls and little boys, they loved them. They loved them.
Right.
At this day and time, with police relationships being as they are with the community, sometimes good, sometimes not good, depending. What if we all read about Sam Battle, right? Right? I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, continue.
So reading about Sam Battle, and then after reading the book, then imagine this, NYPD and the Harlem community together take a walk through Sam Battle's Harlem. And then after that, we all meet in my cultural center, NYPD and the community, and we talk about the book. What comes out of that? Comes out of that understanding. See, that's a special example of a specially curated experience.
That's incredible.
Right?
Yeah, that's incredible. So those types of experiences, and I think that's important. And for you to be able to have the ears of different populations or different groups, to be able to have these types of experiences are incredible too.
Yeah.
So tell me, what do you find most rewarding when you do these tours? Is it the revelation of the guests? Is it when you learn something new? Tell us a little bit about that.
It's just so many benefits. One is I'm teaching my guests who are from all around the world. I'll tell them about a great hero of mine. They'll tell me about a great hero of theirs from their homeland. I go home, I read about this person, I grow.
Sure.
And this happens every tour. Every tour I walk away learning about somebody I didn't know. That's one benefit. Two is working with the kids. I tell you an instance that happened the other day. In my office, I have these street signs, literal, real street signs that come from the lamppost. I got one that says Malcolm X. I got one that says Adam Clayton Powell Jr. I got one that says Alambe Brath. Kids came into my office the other day, right from around the corner. A little girl walked in, and she's looking at the signs. And she stood there for a while just looking at the signs. I didn't know what was going on in her head. She said, "Who's that?" I said, "Who's who?" She goes, "Who's that?" She wanted to know who Alambe Brath was. At that moment in time, I stood there. I told her all about Alambe Brath. Don't you know she went to school and wrote a paper about Alambe Brath?
Good for you. Good for you.
That's that right there.
Good for you.
I'm ready. I'm done. I can go. My work is done on Earth. I can go on and that's how I feel.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
When that happens, and now I got 150 kids coming out of that building there on 16th Street. They're coming out of the building there where Harlem World existed. Right across the street is the mosque where Malcolm X was the leader.
Right.
Oh, I got nothing but fun times now to teach about 50 years of hip hop culture. They go to school in the old Harlem World, and they look at the windows, they see the mosque.
So the school is Democracy Prep? What is the name of
Democracy
the
Prep.
school?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. That's it.
I don't want to say people go to school called Harlem World, but it's Democracy
It's
Prep.
Democracy Prep.
Okay.
In the old Harlem World building.
In the whole Harlem World building.
While we
That's
celebrate
history.
50 years of hip hop
History, too.
culture.
Yeah, it's history as well.
Right?
So, you know, I think I travel a couple of places, and I travel in other parts of the world, and I say that I'm from Harlem. Some people know, some places know Harlem or they've heard of it, but others, when they think of, I guess, any community, an urban community in America, they just look at the negative aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you find that you have to share the other side, as you said, the cultural side, the arts side, the music, the benefits, the accomplishment side of us when you talk to people like in other parts of the country?
Well, I
Of the
gotta tell you
world,
something.
excuse me, of the world.
Yeah, you know, Harlem has changed so much right before our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're living during a time in which, during our lifetime, we've seen some really, really monumental things take place. We've seen Barack Obama become the president of the United States, 44. We saw 45. We won't talk about that on the show right now. We saw a pandemic. We saw 9/11. And in our lifetime, we've seen Harlem change
Well,
forever. Never be the same as it was before. And when I first started doing these tours, Harlem wasn't the Harlem that it is now. And folks would come, and I had mentally ill people throwing bottles at me. I had people sometimes almost attacking me. What the blankety blank are you doing, bringing all these white people to Harlem and so forth and so on and blah, blah, blah. I would have to leave the group, go back to the person that threw the bottle, and explain to them what heritage tourism is. I would say, folks, you see that bus going down the street right there, got 40 people on it, and everybody on the bus paid the guide from downtown to tell them about Harlem. I'm going to do tours where I'm not going to talk about real estate and values of properties. I'm going to talk about Adam and Martin and Malcolm and Queen Mother Moore and so forth and so on. I would win that guy over. Next time I'm coming down the street, he gives me that.
not throwing a bottle at you.
Not the bottle went from the bottle to the power
Fist
fist.
bump.
Now, the thing is, as Harlem is changing, that doesn't happen as much, and the perception that people have of Harlem coming in is changing too. But when it first started, it was people had, you sure I can come to Harlem? You sure it's going to be okay? I'm driving in. Is my car going to be okay when I leave? And that kind of thing. And now people don't have that. I'm seeing a change in terms of the overall perception of the community, which is I guess it's a good thing, right?
It is. I mean, I think that it's always good to be in a safe place, right?
Yeah.
But the idea that people feel comfortable with you and walking around with you and while you're giving them experiences, because what are the areas that you walking around in Harlem?
All of Harlem.
Right,
I mean, we
so
got Harlem going
it's-
from, sorry.
I'm just saying, the areas that you've been walking around, I'm sure at one time we wouldn't be walking around there like that, you know?
Well, that's a very interesting scenario too, because I find that, you know, when I started this company, you know, I just got to be honest with you. My European partners are the ones that came and really supported me, because sometimes even my middle class black friends said, I ain't going to Harlem.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. Like,
I ain't going there, you crazy?
well, I mean, I understand that one aspect of.
Don't get me
wanting-
wrong, I love my people, I'm happy that you support. I'm just keeping it 100 with you.
No,
you know?
I understand that. But I just think that being able to understand the history of it is just something we just are not appreciative of.
Yeah.
And I think I've had a couple of conversations with you, like even listening to music, you just be dropping dimes and dropping jewels, like, you know, wow, did you know this? Did you know that? And I'm like, I did not know that. If there's something right now, like if you are sharing a tour right now, what bit of history do you think you can share? Let's say about, do you do a hip hop tour?
We once really were engaged heavily in hip hop, and we're going to get back into that considering the 50th anniversary. Let me just tell you something. The Bronx most definitely is the birthplace of hip hop culture. But Harlem has a page in that book, man.
Oh,
You're talking about like
dancing and fashion. That's
dancing, fashion. I'm talking about 77, 78, 79, when that blackout took place. Where were you when the lights went out In New York, well, when the lights went on New York City, it caused that Woolworth there on 116th Street to go out of business. That became Harlem World, which is a pillar of hip hop culture.
Sure.
And so that's our heritage right where we live, right? And so all throughout Harlem, we have that type of story to be told. And we're going to tell it. My man, DJ Spivey from the Magnificent Seven and all those guys, Harlemites, we're going to have a good time this year. Hip Hop 50.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Let me
I
just
think
say
it's
something real
important.
fast. I gotta say something. We have in our possession maybe about 100 pics of old Harlem World shots. You know, guys, the Gloria Vanderbilt jeans.
That's incredible.
I'm talking about before it became
That's an exhibit.
like Pumas and all. I'm talking about when we went from disco over into hip hop. When cats still had the hard shoes and the collar shirts and like Saturday Night Live Fever kind of thing before I got shots from those days. And I invite all of you out there to come and be a part of when we unveil the Harlem World exhibit at the Harlem Heritage Tourism and Cultural Center, aka Club Harlem, guys. What I'm finding.
When is that? When is that?
This is going to be in 2 months. We're going to have that exhibition up.
Okay, well, just when you do it, we'll share that accordingly, you know.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
I mean, but I think that the other thing that we talked about, which is critical, is some of the history in our communities, and I'm sure in other communities too, it's important, that is not necessarily in history books, but we know that that's history. Like, we know. And we need to create our own stories. So there's certain communities, like there's certain, like maybe it might be a playground that's critical. There may be a certain block that was critical. There may be a certain store or restaurant that had memories that created history.
Love it.
Certain people in our communities that probably were not the Malcolm and the Martins, right? But
loving it.
Were just history makers, i.e. you talked about your mom. And other leaders that were around just really pushing the button to make sure that, you know, our rights were not ignored. Is that a part? Is that I'm not on this a milk crate right now, but I'm just wondering, is that important? Is that part of the heritage?
That is it. That unheralded story. That story that needs to be brought to the public's eye. That story about a person like Jesse Gray, who was a major housing advocate during the 1960s and 70s. He was the guy that said, wait a minute, New York City, we got problems with rats in the building. We got problems with people having a low standard of living. We got problems with people coming from the American South and coming to the North, and their wages are low and their rents are high. We're going to do something about that, but who knows about Jesse Gray? We got to teach about Jesse Gray because he's an important figure. Sometimes that person that needs to be celebrated is not getting the attention that they deserve, and cultural heritage tourism gives the opportunity to bring his legacy to life. That's the most fun right there. Great. That's where it's at right there, right? So yeah, I really enjoy that, man.
That's important because, you know, you can't let those names be erased from our history.
No. And the thing is that the people love it. They love it. Now, when you take our history and our heritage, and you add some of our entertainment element of our heritage to the history, so now what we're doing is that we got entertainment and we got education. People love that. Then we have something called edutainment, where now you're having fun while you're learning, and the kids love it, and they walk away singing a song, but they're learning the history too.
Yeah.
When you can pull off that, it's magic. It's magic.
You're listening to Phoenix Soul. This is Yaz Hurston. If you're just tuning in, we're talking to Neal Shoemaker. You can call us if you want and talk to Neal, who is the founder of the Harlem Heritage Tourist and Cultural Center. And you can call us at 347-708-0216. So Neal, when you share this information about people that made history, there are people that are making history now. Would you say that?
Thank you.
Okay.
And let me just. You hit it right on the head. Listen, so often.
Let me just finish because I.
You got me excited. Go ahead.
No, that's good. That's good. Keep it. But the people that's making history today, who do you think who do you think, out of who we're dealing with today, let's say in our community, that would be speaking about probably 20 years from now? Like who would be a part of our discussion 20 years from now based upon who you're dealing with today in historical terms?
Well, I'm not saying it because I'm sitting with you, Yasmin, but you are out there on the front lines all of the time.
Oh.
We know each other for 25 years, and you've
Check is in the
worn
mail.
many hats. No, I know Yasmin going back when she was working for different political leaders in the community. I know Yasmin from when she's working with Walter Edwards and those guys. I know Yasmin when she has an old, on point experience, and she's always doing something for the community. Yasmin is always putting somebody on. And I think the annals of Harlem history are going to be favorable to your efforts. People like you. I think people out there like great restaurateurs, like my girl, Trinez Woods, who's carrying on the legacy of the Sylvia's brand. I'm working with, you know who I really think names should be recorded more heavily in the annals of Harlem's history? All of those people who are the TA presidents within NYCHA, all of those people that do not-for-profit work and they don't get the recognition they deserve. I'm working now with people whose names may be recorded. People like, you know, you're going to have soon the Harlem Festival of Culture. My friends Musa Jackson and Nicole Evans. I got friends like Dakota Pippins, who I'm working with now. We're going to revive the old jazz scene. The people have said via surveys they want live music. We got to bring that back, Yasmin. One time they had bar and club and venue and so forth and so on, where every block you can go in and hear wonderful music. We got to bring that back, and people like Dakota Pippins is making that happen. There's just so many names to name, folks I'm working with nowadays who are trying to make it so that not only do we respect what happened in the past, but we have to make new history now so the people in the future will have something to talk about what happened now. And on that note, I have a question to ask people. In the imagination, it is no longer 2023. Let's say it's Woodstock, for instance, 1969, right? And you, by chance, happen to attend the concert. And if somebody had told you, listen, man, you hit Woodstock, this is going to be recorded in a major way by the annals of the future, you would have probably collected the sand. And when Jimi Hendrix left his jacket on the side and left, you would have got that jacket, and you would have said, I got to save this because one day, the folks are going to go, wow, this is a collector's item. But what about the history and what's going on nowadays? And what about realizing that we're living through a Harlem Renaissance right now? Those folks in 69 didn't understand it, so they didn't save the stuff. We got to understand that right now we're living during a Harlem Renaissance where Harlem is filled with cultural creatives like Yasmin, and we got to act like it's a Renaissance. I save everything. Right now, my office is overflowing with stuff. It's falling out. It's just too much, but I know
But you're saying that
20 years is going to be valued.
People should be taking, I guess, memorabilia based upon what's going on.
People need to realize that these are historic days, and when you look at it 20 years from now, you're going to go, wow, I was there. For instance, I never forget 1989 when David Dinkins, my dear brother, God bless his soul, he's in heaven now, when he ran for the mayor of New York City. The posters were everywhere, all over the community. My mentor, Andy Owens, saved all those posters. Guess who has them? I have those posters. I look through them now. I got the 1989 campaign poster for David Dinkins. It was all over the place. Nobody really cared about it. There are none left. I happen to have a few myself. That's worth something now. But back then they could have saved them. They didn't. Well, what about that campaign poster for whoever's running now? Save it.
Yeah, I have a whole folder of campaign lit forever.
Yeah. So I don't want to be long-winded, but I'm just saying what I'm trying to emphasize.
That, you know, make every moment like his. I hear you.
I'm saying realize that just like the 1920s and the 1960s, those periods that are iconic, we have one, listen to me, We got one going on right now that we're living in. We're participants in it. Don't take it for granted. That's what I'm saying.
So, for the sake of history and people listening, tell us a bit of history that you think is important for us to know today, that you can share with us.
Oh man, there's so many.
Just one story, just one bit of history that you could share.
One story, one bit of history that I can share with you.
The audience, yeah.
Okay, let me just pull something. I mean, there's so many historical moments in time, but near and dear to my heart, imagine we got 1943, a young kid named Malcolm Little comes to Harlem for the first time, not knowing that one day his name is going to be on street signs. Fast forward, prison. Fast forward, out of prison, 1957. From 1957 until 1963, he's right there walking on boulevards, right there talking to the people, right there articulating what he feels are the answers to the problems in our community at that time. That's amazing history, right?
Right.
You know, stories like that. You know, imagine March 24th, 1968, Dr. King now is thinking to himself, we got all these migrants going to the north, and they need aid once they get there. So we have the Urban League in place and other organizations to help. But King says, I'm going to Chicago. I'm going to move into the South Side. He sends, or he helps to facilitate the arrival of Wyatt T. Walker to become the senior pastor at Canaan Baptist Church of Christ. This is March 24th, 1968. I'm going to repeat, March 24th, 1968. Dr. King says, Wyatt T. Walker, you stay here. His former chief of staff, SCLC, Southern Christian Leadership Conference. King then goes to Memphis, Tennessee, vowing to come back to Harlem. He never makes it back because 9 days later, he's killed. You see, these are the stories that rest within our community. From 110th Street all the way up to 165th Street, every street has a story. And it's our job as cultural heritage tourism people to make those stories come to life.
Well, thank you so much. For anyone watching or anyone who's interested in going into this industry or would like to learn more about tourism, what message would you give them?
Well, follow me on Instagram now.
Before they follow you, because we're going to ask that too, but before they follow you, but what bit of advice would you give somebody?
Well, first of all, for this to work, you got to have passion. You got to be the kind. You got to. It's like almost like a what is it? Endorphins. That when you feel this, you know, it's more than work. You really have some kind of like biophysical kind of thing that goes on where you start to transform and you start to really feel it, and you become Malcolm. You become these folks, and you walk down the street, and you really feel indomitable. You know what I mean? That's number one. Got to have passion. And two, just research, man. Just take it in and parlay that job that you got. Where, see, for me, I worked at Citibank, right, for a long time, and I wanted to be like a Wall Street tycoon that was taking over. But the bank trained me. They sent me the classes. They sent me the public speaking classes, and they showed me how to do. I took all those skills from the bank, and I parlayed them into my own thing. I never forget the time when I got my first stationery kit. It wasn't Citibank stuff. It was letterhead, envelope, and business card. It said Harlem Heritage Tours on it. You know how I felt? I just took the skills from here, and I brought them over here, and before you know it, I'm giving presentations on the street opposed to giving them in the corporate setting. With the passion for my culture and my people. And now I'm who I am sitting with you, Yasmin.
Well, I'm very impressed. And if folks want to contact you or follow you, please tell us how to do so.
Instagram, now, follow me. Harlem Heritage Tours, guys. Fantastic. Instagram. And you know, when you go on my Instagram page right now, you're going to see a clip up there. I was in a cab, and the gentleman driving the cab, he's like 80. He's telling me all of these stories. Look at Instagram, you'll see. Anyway, that's why it took you a while to get here, because you were talking. Yeah, you got me. Okay. She always gets me. So Facebook too, Harlem Tours, and yeah. So
Harlem Tours. So it's Harlem Tours.
It's Harlem Tours on Facebook. Okay. No, my business page, Harlem Heritage Tours, and my Instagram is Harlem Heritage Tours too. Sure. And website www.harlemheritage HarlemHeritage.com.
Okay. And you've been doing this for how many years?
I've been doing this since about 2002 strong.
That's
I
awesome.
started before that, but really I quit the job at the bank to do this. That's like, then, so.
And you've been doing this since then?
I've been doing this ever since.
Wow, this is excellent. Well, Neil, we're very proud of you, first of all.
Thank you.
You continue to make a difference. And look, it's the moment you keep our stories alive, the stronger communities are. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And you listening to Neil Shoemaker. He is pretty awesome guy.
Thank you. Jasmine is my girl. You know, she's like my cultural ally. She was just in my place. I might show up spinning.
Please don't. Right.
We had a good time that day, didn't we?
We did have a good time.
That was fun.
We have to do it again.
Gotta do it again, yeah.
We do it again. He's alluding to, he let me come out, I need to tell you about that experience. He let me come to his,
Culture Center.
somebody said, I knew Neil for years from Foster and his mother, Dorothy Chapman.
Hey, Dorothy, how are you, Dorothy? I know Dorothy very well.
I
Do you
know
see
Dorothy
something?
too.
I gotta tell a story real fast.
Oh, okay.
Foster, right? Now, NYCHA, they have developments all over the place. The Stephen Foster projects built from 1949 to 1951. But if anybody out there is listening, Google Stephen Foster, Foster, and learn about who he really was. And when you do, you realize why the name was changed to the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Towers. How did I find out this information about the true meaning or a legacy of Stephen Foster? It all happened through cultural heritage tourism.
Interesting.
And now I never will call it Foster again
No.
because of my learning about who he was.
Well, who was he?
He's known.
Not want to talk about
I'm sure, I have no problem. He's known as the father of America songwriting. And he's known as being like this really innovative like songwriter. But the songs he wrote were minstrel tunes. Oh, Swanee River. And, you know, there was a celebration on the grounds of the Foster in NYCHA housing development. You would have a coon show, a minstrel show going on, because that's what he was into. We can't celebrate that during Black History Month. But 7 faithful residents in MLK led by people like your mom.
No, but see, that's what I'm saying. Those names, we should know those names. Those 7 names, right?
Oh.
When you do their history, right?
Yeah.
We should say those names too, right?
Well, one of them I will say at the top of my head is Miss Ruby Kitchen.
Yes.
The late, great Miss Ruby Kitchen.
Yes.
She's the one, along with 6 others, that went down to NYCHA and said, listen, we got to change this name.
Right.
And if anybody knows Miss Ruby Kitchen,
Right.
when she approaches the authorities, they listen, and the name was changed in 1969 to the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Towers, right? And this is what comes out of being a heritage tourism pro, okay?
Right.
Okay.
Well, everybody, thank you so much. You listened to Phoenix Soul. This has been incredible. And just remember, we'll be back next week. Thank you, Neil.
Pleasure.
You're the best.
Thank you.
This is Yaz Hurston. And see you again.